Hello, nobody. Today I thought we'd get started on whatever. Let me show you something I found while we're waiting for everybody to get here. I'm going to share this. This is a watch movement that I was shown by Eric in Sweden, and it's a French company called Montres Normandies. Uh, and the name of the watch is Escapement à Force Constante. So anyway, sort of interesting. Um, so I thought while I was waiting around. Hi, Andre. How you doing? Um, I found this French movement, or actually, it found me. Eric showed it to me, and I thought, well, that's a pretty cool thing. Be a fun thing to start off our discussion with. Anyway, um, hi, Amir. How you doing? Oh, what do you guys feel like talking about today? About watches. Go back to regular. Any topic you guys have in mind? An accidental join. I was trying to select another notification as this popped up. Okay. I'm glad you're here by mistake. Hi, Mask. How you doing? You ever seen the more scientific looking moon phase? A more scientific looking moon phase. Oh, I'll tell you. Have you seen Christian Vanderklaus? His stuff is really good. Hi, Brian. How you doing? Um, yeah, I like his. He's got the 3D moon. Hey, Goldfinger. Good to see you. Bump. Michael. Hi, Michael. Hey, Michael. Did you take care of that thing? Because I've alerted the people doing the shipping. Okay. Hey, Mask. From Moser and Bernhoud, what marks for each age of moon or measurements? I don't know. The moon phase. I had my moon phase. I really liked it. I had a Christian Vanderklaw moon phase for a while, and for a long while, as a matter of fact. I really liked it, but I found out that I just wasn't wearing it anymore, and off it went. So, but for moon phase people, I would imagine those would be good ones. The thing I like everything about Moser. I'm not, their moon phase isn't. To me, the interesting thing they have is their perpetual calendar. Those are really nice, and for this reason, they can. It's easy to reset them, and when you wind up a watch or you have an automatic on it, the it's easier to rewind. I've got on my Lyrique #1 today. This has become one of my favorite watches. I like #2, but I don't know, something about this one I really like, the original. Okay, I will get in touch with them. You know, uh, I I think I'll right as soon as we're finished here, I'll make a contact, Michael. Thank you, by the way. Hey, Gilberto, how you doing? Finally made it to a unplanned one. Oh, good. Hey, I forgot to post this on the Malaysia chat that I usually do because it's pretty late there. That's why. Hi, Mike. You like my shirt? I do too. It's my cowboy shirt. Um, I thought the marks on their moon phases was essentially weird because they didn't give you a minute track. Okay. I just not into moon phases mask. So you'd figure the mark minimalist. You know, I just I wish I could say more. I used to try to follow the moon, the phases of the moon on my Kristen Vanderklaw, and I'd look at it and I'd look at what they said the moon was supposed to do, and sometimes they were in sync and other times they weren't. So it was well, usually they were. But Kristen Vanderklaw was pretty good. They had an ETA movement underneath the Kristen Vanderklaw on top. They used to have Soprods, which Soprod 810s on them, and I really like those. But they've got one that's called it's a 3D moon on the Kristen Vanderklaw, and if I ever Sarpaneva's got an interesting one. Like I said, I'm just not into those. Hey, Gilberto, my dream moon phase watch is an Arnold and Son perpetual moon. Though, you know, I get, on mine, and I say, oh, this is good for 500 years. I've only got 490 left, so why should I get one overly so? Andrew, if you want a humble but well-made, somewhat different moon phase, take a look at Farrer Gilberto. Yeah, I saw their moon phase. It is a nice moon phase. I like that. Is that a Woody shirt from Disney's Toy Story? No, I don't know. I just thought this looks like a fun shirt. I saw it. I was screwing around online. I thought, oh boy, a cowboy shirt. That was it. Nothing. And I think it's got musical notes somewhere. So I mean, it'd be a singing cowboy shirt. I mean, what more could you want? No, the one from the Disney one was too expensive. This came in the discount cowboy shirts. Oh, and Christopher Ward is a good value too. Yeah, Christopher Ward has always been a good value. One thing I wonder about Christopher Ward is the SH 21, whether it seemed to have disappeared or been sort of put in the back shelf for some reason. And what I'm wondering whether they got, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did, whether they had better performance from the ETAs they had in there or the Solidas. I don't know that they did. Let me show you this watch again that I had mentioned right at the beginning, but I thought it was sort of interesting. This one was Eric. Got a long, fancy last name. Eric had shown this to me, and I looked at it, and it's by a French company, Montreuil's Normandies, and the escapement with a constant force, and fabricated at 37 Rue something or other, but it's caliber 774. But look at the size, relatively speaking, of that balance. Man, that's a gorgeous looking thing. I got to find out more about that company. Does anybody know anything about it? These guys? Anyway, I thought it was sort of interesting. Hey, James, how you doing? They're using it again with their new skeletonized 12. I think it's okay. Oh, okay. I think it's more down to cost. It could be. Usually the in-house movements are always more expensive. As those of us in Larique know, not only are they in-house, not in the Larique house, but they're in-house in terms of something else. Hey, I got to tell you guys something. This is sort of funny. There's a company called, and I mentioned it, I think, in which one was it? One of the earlier videos I did. I just mentioned in passing, and the I think I mentioned it in relationship to a Speak Marin watch. Okay, there's a group called the Circle of Horologers. I can't. My French would murder it, but that's the name of it. And they're somewhere. I think they're somewhere around La Chaux de Fonds. And anyway, I believe that Speak Marin also, not everyone is with him except Peter Speak Marin. In fact, Peter Speak Marin now goes by Peter Speak. He's the guy who's the naked watchmaker. Anyway, um, the one of the things they talked about, they said, well, we'll go to your company, where you have it, and we'll, work on a movement we do there. So the guys are saying, one of the movements, apparently this is what Speak Marin did. They had one of their movements made by these guys, and it's a great looking movement. Don't get me wrong. But then they said, well, it's an in-house movement. The guys did some work on it there, but they're not, employees of Speak Marin. But it was they didn't have to do that. This is one of the things. You can have a company and they can say, okay, we got our movement from Vaucheur, we got it from Crenode, we got it from Agenor, or we got it from another place. That really top-notch movement, probably better than anything they could do in-house. Essentially, what in-house came to state, instead of spending very little money on getting an ETA and or a Sellita. Now the ETAs and the Sellitas are not horrible movements, okay? They're just mass produced in such a way that they are very inexpensive. And so you can get, let's say, a Sellita movement for, we'll say, a few $100, okay? Or a few hundred Swiss francs. Whereas an Agenor movement will cost you several thousand, But, I tell you, a couple good deals. Both the Crenode and Vaucheur, they have their movements, I think, sort of on the intro level, an intro level automatic with the big automatic rather than the micro automatic. They're right around 1,000. They may even be less than 1,000. So, I mean, you can still get a really good movement. Now, that's a lot more than, a couple $100 for a movement that you can get from, let's say, Sellita. But that's sort of the whole idea that say, well, it's in-house when you've got someone like the Circle of Horologers, and these guys are really good. And I would rather say, just like we do it at Lyrique, our movement by Agenor. Good God. I mean, I don't think any of us can any more than, some of us belong to pretentious watchmakers, and that's about as far as we go on that. Anyway, okay, let's see what you guys are talking about. A question: what is the deal with ETA 2824-2? I've heard Cartier created their own movement in-house for some models when ETA stopped. Yeah, Amir, something else happened actually. There was a movement that was originally created at Cartier. It wasn't by what's her name? Forstier Casapi, but it was somebody else, and it was pretty good movement. And then Piaget decided to use it also. Well, it turns out that the owner, the overlord of all of these watches, Richemont created Val Fleurier, and so they could make their movements. So companies like what were they, Baume et Mercier, so they could then have a quote in-house movement because they are in the big house called Richemont, which is sort of silly. Um, but Bon Mercier has always had really interesting, very good designs and so forth. They've been owned by um, Richemont for a very long time, but they never had their own quote in-house movement until they have the Bombmatic, and the Bombmatic was made at Val-Fleurier. I don't know whether it was the one that Cartier had, even Vacheron Constantin. So I think more importantly than saying, well, it's in-house when it's not, you know, it's I think it's more to say, look, these guys built our movement. They've got a great reputation. The one that I just was showing, this guy right here, if somebody said, our movement is by the Montreuil's Normandies, say, hey, that's a nice movement. I would be much more impressed with a movement like that than somebody says, oh, we have an in-house movement. I think, are you guys familiar with Horage? Horage. I'm not sure whether they make their own movement or not. But what I saw that they had was pretty ugly as a movement. Now, they could say, oh, okay, well, we developed this ourselves. Maybe they did, but because they developed it themselves doesn't mean it's even as good as the Solita. And I think it's important to say, okay, you know, what makes our movement tick and what's unique about it? Okay, just my usual view of things. Why don't they just use another movement? Exactly, I'm in. Andrew Sheed. You were at Red Bar at Oxford. Way to go. There are similar stories about Nomos, even Halbring too. Yeah, I know. They're a little different though. Thing with Nomos was that they started off with what they called the Alpha, and the Alpha was based on the ETA Pazoo 7001. And so they eventually refixed it up until it was, quote, their own. And basically, it's a Pazoo 7001 with all German parts and everything that Nomos did to put it back together again. Now, having said that, the thing about it was that if you look, or it used to be, I don't know if they changed this or not, but initially they differentiated the DUW movements that Nomos had, and they differentiated it from the Alpha or the 7001s. They referred to the DUW as, quote, in-house, whereas they didn't do that with the Alpha, which to me was a bit of, it was honesty is what it was. So there. Okay, what else you guys got? Okay. Hey, Mark, how you doing? How's that old FP joint of yours? Still working? I hope so. Anyway, okay, what else you guys have? Okay, James and Andrew are talking about old school ties. All right, James, what do you got here? It is recommended you don't hand wind base ETAs or Solitas. Keyworks made of tofu wrappers, toffee wrappers. Jesus. Horage are killer watches, in my humble opinion. Oh, they might be. Like I said, I'm talking about the very first ones that came out. So I could easily stand corrected. The guys behind Orage are super smart. Okay. Love the original design at Orage. Okay. On their website, Horage says they engineer and make all of their movements. I'm sure they do. I was just wondering if that's the problem. No, they're a company though. I do like them. I just some of the early stuff I saw didn't look very good. Now, if you like them, that's fine. That you know, who's to say? Hey, I ran across something really, really funny this morning. You guys know Dominic? Dominic's usually here with us. Um, Dominic sent me a book called something about time. What was it called? Something about time. Anyway, it's about the Waltham Watch Company, which is just north of here, up in Waltham, Massachusetts, and they're no longer in existence. It's a super interesting company. They go back into the, I think, 1853, I think, is when they started up there. Anyway, there was this thing they had 18 something or other, and they had like a letter saying, um, "You're going to inherit this Waltham watch, and this is good for generations of and so forth." Which is really interesting because the way it's written, I was reading, I said, "Wait a minute, doesn't that sound like the tagline that goes with Patek Philippe?" Which is, to me, they always have some kid you just want to smack, some some entitled kid with their, "This is for your entitled kid," on the way to prep school. I don't know. I always found that even more pretentious than I am, and that takes a lot. So it was fun to see that they may have lifted that from Waltham watches in the first place. Okay. You guys love the movements. You love Orage. All right, good. Glad to hear they're doing well. Okay. Um. All right. Yeah. The advertise. I think they've finally changed it to some extent. We got to come up with. We sort of have a tagline for Larique. Or here's what it should be. We have no idea what we're doing. Thank God for the people who we work with. Uh, I think we have one Larique unique, but that's about it. We got to come up with something more, you know, something like when you're broke but you want a nice watch. Anyway, okay, what else you guys have to talk about? Um, let's see what else is going on. What has been interesting lately? What have you guys seen and watched them that you said, "Hey, this is sort of cool"? Anything interesting? That's if we can get it right, why can't the SWAT group? Yeah, 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 James, that's even better. Quality on the QT, like, "Shh, be quiet." We got we kept getting these people, "I want one, I want one." I just got one today, and I become really good at I speak fluent Google French. Well, not Google, it's DeepL. It's DeepL French. So I get something in French and I translate it, and then I say something in English and then translate it to French and then send it back. I've been doing that a whole lot. And what I found out is that I get better responses from French speaking entities in Switzerland than I do if I put it in English. So it works out. Of course, they got to put up with the AI. I'll call it, maybe instead of Google French, I should call it AI French. Hey, Floodland 99. You need a whole book. You know what I need is um what are they? Phonetic translations. My hearing, I've always had I I got banged up very young and lost a big hunk of my hearing. And so when I hear something and I was this god awful uh outside of English. I got pretty good at Spanish at one time when I had to, but other than that, it's not too much. But things like DeepL and Google Translate are really just really wonderful to have. Saw Longines retrograde with 4 retrograde movements, seconds, GMT date, and day of the week. You know something? What I was doing this morning, this is what I was working on. This is a snail cam. And what I'm doing for a video that I'll be having for next Monday is explaining how a snail cam works. And so I put a model together using cardboard, sort of a wooden base to it. See, cardboard, popsicle sticks, and screws, and a rubber band. And so, if you're interested to see how a retrograde works with a snail cam, tune in on Monday. I think if you like that kind of thing. Mike swatches. I like the new Moodia Element watch. Very minimalist. Mudita. I don't know Mudita Element. That sounds interesting now. It's got a Salida movement. Good. I tell you, some really interesting watches have a Salida movement or a ETA movement underneath. So there. My my Dandy Arty open face has underneath is an ETA. Hey, Allie, how you doing? I want to get a decent 3D printer to build models like that. Yeah. Yeah, I know. There's a friend of mine who he started using 3D printers, and he was showing me some stuff and how they worked. I think the one he had at the time was sort of a very simple one, and they use I think it was like thread, or like a plastic thread, and did all of this stuff, and out it comes. He made a little holder for me that I keep my spring bars in. So, but now I've seen some of the stuff he's done, man. Geez, I think that that's coming along. It's boy, I would like to get an inexpensive but nice steel case done with AI. Yeah, what's on top? Well, we got the top and underneath going both ways on this number 3. That's the one I'm really looking forward to. We've got I found out some stuff about it that is even makes it more fun. So I can hardly wait until we get more on that, moving on it. I'll be very happy when everybody gets their E2 number 2. It's just, geez. Hey, by the way, there's a video that just came out from Watches TV, and the guy is talking about all of the different companies that do the what's it called? That make all of the different parts. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't had a chance, but I've been at work with popsicle sticks and cardboard. Anyway, that sounds like a really interesting thing because I think the idea, the old Swiss idea of having all of these different companies who specialize in all of these different parts, I think is important to understand, because I know that those of us who are experiencing LaRique are finding out that all of these things are coming from different places that specialize in it. Now we on our last watch, we dealt with a well-known, dial maker, case maker, of course, watch a movement maker, a hand maker. All of these things were all done by people who are important in that, and I think that can make a big difference. And so it's beginning to, I think the we're beginning to recognize as collectors more what's going on in a watch than we did before. That, oh, look at this, and it's got such and such and such and such. Looks like so and so did this dial or hands or movement or some other aspect of it. That's always fun. Hey, James, that's another good one. Good grief, you're coming up with great time well spent. I like that. Hi, Allie, how you doing? Uh, Alludes to value and integrity, but pompous, but not. I don't know. I don't want to be pompous. Pretentious, yes, but not pompous. Pompous, you know, take take it seriously. That's another thing. Here's another sort of eccentric pet peeve of mine. Every time I read about a watch company, especially a new one, they have to put in at least 5 times the words passionate. I don't want to hear passionate. I want to hear competent. I want to hear we do it on time. We do it right. I don't care if you use slave labor from Slobovia. I don't care if anybody's passionate. I want efficiency and skill. Now you can have somebody who's I see a lot of these people that come in as I want to do watch dials. I'm going to design a watch. Oh, really? Okay. Let's see what you got. I had this one that came up in High Horology Lounge. There was this long, long diatribe. It wasn't a diatribe, it was sort of like a business plan of some sort. That thing went on for pages of someone saying, okay, this is what I want to do. That's not what, if you don't tell us what you want to do, I'd like to see what you've done or what you actually do. But it was really, and then of course, oh yeah, and I'm passionate about it. Don't care about passion. I want competence. I want well organized. I want somebody who does things systematically and gets them done on time. That I would love. Uh, Hoth watches have done some interesting 3D watch cases. Hey, Goldfinger. Okay, let's see. Some of us use slave labor. Halo AIX. 3D printed watch cases. Yeah, 3D printed watch cases. Yeah, there's a company that does sapphire cases. I don't know if I'd want that or not. It's funny. I like exhibition back so you can see things like this. I like exhibition backs, and so you can see what's going on. And I'm hoping that eventually we can get a back with a back like the Langenheim Georg, where you have minimal bridges and I don't even know if they have any plates, but you can see the entire movement, how it's all set up. That's what I like. That's what I like about the Georg more than anything. I think the UWD 33.1 that Marco Lang did for him has a similar thing, except in the round. They have all of these little, they're not finger bridges, they're like bell bridges, and they're like this. and then the end of it here is where they have a connection to the different gears. Yeah, maybe that's something else I could see if I could make one of those out of popsicle sticks and cardboard. Anyway, okay, what are you doing here? What materials? Not steel. I like steel. I'm happy with steel. I do. I titanium. It's really funny. Titanium is too light for me. I I I know it. There's a lot of advantages. It's strong. It is a little tougher to work with. But the things I like steel. I like gold, both any color. Uh, right now, I was not a big fan of white gold, and now I am because I ended up with so many watches with it. I didn't plan on it. Um, platinum. Platinum is great, but those platinum watches are expensive, not because of the cost of platinum, because again, that's something that's hard to work with. I'm always surprised because I don't know, the last few years, the price of gold has become higher than that of platinum. I think I have a watch made out of old catalytic converter steel. Okay, what's going on here? Um, okay, I'd be curious about a completely sapphire pocket watch, but I don't have any interest in completely sapphire wristwatch. Yeah, they have. There's this gal in China who likes to put up uh, sapphire cases on high horology lounge and on pretentious watchmakers. Like, I I contacted her once and said, what are they charging for those things? And she said it was like $1,000. And it sounds like, oh, that's a lot, but then I stopped and thought about it, considering what we're paying for cases. Not a bad deal, but I don't know what I'd do. I mean, it sort of looked like Wonder Woman's invisible airplane or something. What would I do with it? Titanium feels a bit like a tin can. Yeah. I you know, aluminum, FP Journe original sports watch that he made. There was a runner who really liked FP Journe watches, but he told FP Journe that not too crazy about it because he runs a lot and it was just too heavy. So the one of the first ones, what do they call it? I forgot what FP Journe called them, but they were made out of aluminum. And I guess there were a number of problems they ran into. Didn't go over very big, but I don't know. Another one I tried on some who was it? Laurent Ferrier watches when I was at the was it Cassini's, Cellini's on Park Avenue. Anyway, so I was in there trying some on, and they all felt really light. Love the looks of them, but I don't know. I like some heft in my watches. I don't like you know the those big Roger Dubuis watches. Boom. Those are bar fighting watches. Oh, let's see. Yeah, use sapphire on E2 number 65. No, it was Andrew, it was before the Centigrade Sport, I think. It was one of the sports watches. Um, what was it called? Um, Collection. See if I can find it. 1 second. Line Sport, that's it. Let me show you the one I'm talking about. I tried on the centigrade. I really like the looks of it. Tied it on, it just too light for me. So I guess they're still working with the weight of them. Uh-oh, you got frozen out. Sorry about that. Hi, Idle Time. How you doing? Tim had one back in the day, aluminum rubber bracelet. Yeah. Oops, got frozen out. Sorry about that. Feed is dead. Sorry. And back. All right. Well, I guess it probably took up a little too much of my long-suffering processors. Whammy there. I get rid of the rest of it too. Okay. What else you guys have? I got a little more time before the hammer comes down. Yeah. What else is important about in the world of Watt's collection? Coffee? You're not up yet, Idle Time. You're not from the West Coast, are you? Are you one of these guys that get up at the crack of noon? Everything on the West Coast for us happens early. When I used to being a native Californian, in fact, I'm a third or fourth generation Californian, but I've been in New England for about the last, almost 30 years. Okay, any other major things that need to be discussed? Oh, so I guess are we out of? Do we just run out of gas? I hope. What else? Let me try to think of something silly that's happened. Nada. Well, you've been doing a lot, Andrew. Hi, Dr. Bob's Nightmare. Oh, I just got here. Oh, good. Glad you made it. Oh, hi, Bits. AI impact. Ooh, boy. Yeah, what about that? I don't know. I think, a lot of people were really upset when they started using CAD CAM in watch design. And now it's like, sort of something, boy, I'm glad they have it. I wonder if AI will be the same. I'm not sure. It might be a good thing in this respect that with AI, what you might be able to do with it is to put in, have them do a basic movement thing. Do it with AI or without AI, but get it in there and tell AI about it. So you got your basic movement, mechanical movement, no silicon. Okay. Everything is made out of transitional metals. And then you say, now, what are some different ways that we could add moon phase, or we could add this, or we could add that? That would make it more interesting as a mechanical watch. You take a Yeah, you take a smartwatch and you can do anything. Just it's so simple. You go in there and you program a few things and probably, or call up a module and say, do this and it's done. With mechanical watches, it takes a lot more creativity. I don't know if this it might give ideas. It might bring up ideas that we hadn't thought of. I don't know. For some reason, I'm not scared of AI. It doesn't bother me. I know it bothers a lot of people, but silicon doesn't bother a lot of people, but it bothers me in mechanical watches. What do you got? Let's see. Southwest Idaho, Mountain Time Zone. I won't tell you my Idaho story. A visit to the, no, wait, maybe it was a Wyoming story. Went to the Grand Tetons to see a girl back in the day. That's another story. Hey, Moxico 80, your opinion of Jaeger-LeCoultre's Grande Seconde or Chapard LUC Mark II, please. Which one? I like Jaeger-LeCoultre's and I like Chopard LUC. So to me, I don't know. I like the design characteristics of Jaeger-LeCoultre's because it goes right back to its roots in China when they were the early Jaeger-LeCoultre's, the actual Jaeger-LeCoultre's got his start at the Chinese imperial court and did a lot of interesting things, including some automata erotica for way back then. Sold big to the emperor. He liked that stuff. Chopard LUC I like because I also like the sort of Chopard is better known, and believe it or not, as a jeweler. And so they have a lot of good jewelry design on that. So I'm sorry I can't be much help to you, Moxico, but I'll say this. I like them both. Check out the Jaeger-LeCoultre's movement because I know the Jaeger-LeCoultre's. I'm trying to think, who owns Jaeger-LeCoultre's now? Is that does Swatch own Jaeger-LeCoultre's or does Richemont? That's another thing to find out. Chopard is independent, but who owns Jaeger-LeCoultre's? Does anybody know? Better way to set moon phases and perpetual calendars. That'd be nice. Yeah, that would be cool. Hi, Beatrice. How you doing? Armin, what's your opinion about IWC perpetual calendars? I'm not the best guy to ask about perpetual calendars. The reason is I'm not a calendar person. If there's a calendar on a watch, to me, it's simply something extra I have to set. I prefer them without calendars for that. Mainly because I like hand-wound watches. And every time I hand-wound one of my watches with a calendar in it, I got to set it. Even some of my favorite watches with calendars, I sort of begrudge them setting the calendar. So a perpetual calendar, the one I like is the one by H. Moser, simply because it's easy to reset. But IWC has always sort of been on my doubtful list. If you go through Watchbase and you take a look, start looking at the movements that are identified somehow as IWC, you find out very quickly they're all ETA or ETA based. So I don't know. I guess they have some classics and stuff, but I mean, you take a look at the Portofino line, and they're all. I don't trust them, and I feel the same way about Breitling and Tag Heuer and some of these other ones. I don't mind an ETA movement or a Solita movement, but if you're going to put those in it, you should be like Farrer. Farrer said, this is what we've got. They even tell you the grade, everything. and then they don't charge an arm and a leg. And I think one of the reasons that Breitling and IWC and some of these others have given, they don't exactly say in so many words that, oh, this is in-house, but it is implied in a way that they display it. Why not just be honest and transparent? That's one thing. This last review I did, or wasn't a review, just sort of a video on Farrer. The thing I like the best about it is they're honest. I mean, and as collectors, that's what we should want. If we're going to pay a lot for a watch, we ought to get a lot. If we're, if we're not, we shouldn't. And so when they do that, and I know that the bean counters and a lot of the people who are responsible for keeping the doors open, are giving them, say, well, you can save money here, you can save money there. My God, look what happened with silicone hairsprings. They can save a bundle, and they say, well, it cost us really more. The only cost they had was the development cost, and considerable. And what it does, though, is makes it into an excellent watch involving the balance and the hairspring. Okay, so they got rid of the worries on that. They got rid of the heat and the cold, changing them and so forth. And to me, they took away the whole soul of the watch, And then they brag about having a free-sprung balance. Well, it's the only thing they can have, because if it's not free-sprung, you can adjust it, and you can't adjust those. So enough of that. Okay, what do you guys have? Okay, Amir, that's my view of IWC perpetuals. I don't care too much for perpetuals, not because they're not cool. It's just me, all right? And but IWC, they go in there and say, okay, we're going to start all over. Here's what we've got. And boom, lower the price of the ones that have inexpensive movements, and then they can do something interesting. Tell us how they have constant force, encourage constant force in their other watches. Brian, that's a great one. We don't need no stinking silicone. I tell you, when I asked Kari Voutilainen if he had ever put silicone in his watch, he looked at me like, what kind of person would do that? Like, oh, how it was an insult even to ask, so I sort of like that answer that he had. Yeah, we don't need no stinking silicone. Hey, 521 Taipei, how you doing? Should I buy a regular Speedmaster white dial or wait until the 321 from my AD? For me, I'd wait for the 321. That's just me, though. Okay, I guess there's something that Roger Smith had. He said, "I give no apologies for being a purist. Why should anybody? There's nothing wrong with that." And it's sort of like, oh, you're a purist, like it's something wrong with it. No, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, there's nothing wrong at all. Is that it would be like my saying, oh, you can really pronounce French well. Well, to me, that's a compliment because I can't do it. And I think somebody says they're a purist, fine. I've got no problem with that. But that's the way, I suppose, with a 321 versus a white dial, or wait for the 321. I'd wait for the 321. I think you can enjoy it longer. That's my view of it. And if I ever got a Speedmaster, I'd get one get the most 321 version of the 321. Swatch says, that's what I was afraid of. Yeah, I knew that it was either Swatch or Richemont. 。 . 。  . 。 . 。 . 。 . . . 。 . 。 . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . 。 . . . . 。 . . 。 . 。 . 。 . . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . Thanks, guys. Yeah. Hey, Tim, how you doing? Brian. Yeah, really. Brian, it's if you have that information, it's really good. Not long ago, I bought a watch and it came with nothing. Okay. And uh, I've got no problem with that. I'll tell you one thing though, when I did get my Chanel Monsieur, it came with all the papers and everything. And then when I had a problem with it and took it to the Chanel place in New York, man, they took care of it. They did everything. They shipped it. They fixed it. They said it. This is what Chanel does with, at least with Monsieurs. I don't know what they do with their J12s. They take it and they ship it back to someplace in Switzerland. And then once they're finished in Switzerland, then they send it back to these places they have here in the United States. And they then go through another thing with it. And then once they're satisfied that everything is good with it, then they hand it back to the boutique that are handling it, and then they call you. I'll tell you that experience. If you ever get a Chanel, and you get the paperwork with them, but you know they come in a. Mine didn't come with a box. It came with this leather thing. It was really nice. You know, the best watch box I have is by Fabergé. Good grief! It looks like it's just this gorgeous box they have. I like the watch too. What do you think of Piaget polo models? I love them. I, I'm not even sure what. I don't know why, but I really like the Piaget Polo and the Polo S. I I just think they're cool looking watches. They're sort of like a luxury sports watch that is two things. One, it's a little more available and it doesn't cost as much as like the Holy Trinity luxury sports. I like that one. Hey, Floodland, all the things I treasure, I would like to customize. Leo Fender designed a great guitar, but I still customize it to my needs. I'm thinking watches should be the same. Oh, that's sort of been an interesting thing. I don't disagree with you so much as I something that I really wouldn't care to do to my watches. The only thing that I do is very carefully and only with ones that I can afford to break is to do the regulation on them. But they're a little different. Now, some people, I know a lot of guys like doing mods, and there in fact are whole groups of watch collectors who are sort of they'll take vintage watches or they'll take some other ones that aren't too crazy expensive and they'll do different mods to them. That might be some groups you might want to look into because they may that be something they might want to do. Um, I don't know, like put a supercharged escape wheel on it, something like that. That'd be wild. Hey, pocket watch time. Good morning. Andrew, that's another good one. Hey, Richard, considering the new LV Escalade just released, what does everyone think about the older time zone Escalade at a very good price and a colorful piece? I got one of those. I bought one of those from Govberg, which I think is now Watch Time or something else, and I had problems with it. Sent it back to them, and they fixed it. And my wife saw it. This is pretty. So that was the end of it for me. But I like that watch. There's it, I got it for I forgot. It wasn't terribly expensive. It wasn't dirt cheap either. Forgot what we paid for it. But one thing I'll say about Govberg, boy, they stand behind anything they sell you. Um, and they something was wrong with it. I don't know what it was, but and relatively speaking, complex watch. That's a neat watch, though, I think, and I'm glad we have it. My wife got a an Apple Watch, one of the Hermes ones. That's all she wears. I think and I even got her a case for these watches, and the poor old. Maybe I'll bring it out and start wearing it myself. The LVMH, that really colorful one, I really like. Very ingenious too, the way they did the world timer on that. I like that watch. Autocorrect makes me say things I did in Nintendo. I get my watchmaker to alter watches as taking the date off of King Willard. you know, there a lot of Rolex fans don't like what they call the cyclop window. I, I it's like, what's wrong with a cyclop window? You can see the date. To me, there's nothing wrong with it, but a lot of them just, wow, I hate that one. In fact, they prefer the no date version of the Submariner. I think is what the Submariner, the no date Submariner. Well, you never know. Yeah, Andrew, that's about that same here with straps. I saw this one, I mentioned it before. I got it's called, they have a special name. I got it from ABP Concepts. It's a red and black python strap. Oh boy, they had a special on it, so I bought it. I don't have a brain in my head when it comes to things like that. Good deal. Oh boy, what am I going to do? Well, it ended up on my Fabergé, and it looks sort of cool. No date sub for the win. Yeah, well, I tell you, I would be for it because I'm not a big date fan. But people who like dates on their watches, and there's no reason, other than my idiosyncrasies not to. You got to work every day, and you're wearing your sub, and check out the watch. With me, it was you like, let me see, without the Cyclops. I got nothing against the Cyclops. I know. See, boy, that was an easy one to get some opinions on. Nobody likes the Cyclops, or a lot of people don't. I don't. I have no problem with it. Um, a lot of times it sort of comes down to a lot of times between functional versus aesthetic, and usually aesthetic seems to win. There can be some really cool function on a watch, that especially ones that have to do with I keep getting my eyebrows. I think they're growing like weeds. Um, when it comes down between functionality and aesthetic, so many people are insistent on the aesthetic. I guess I like the functionality. Of course, I don't like ugly functionality, but you add something sort of interesting to a watch. I'd like. Oh, when the Cyclop got his eye put out, Andrew, that wouldn't fall off. What trend do you guys think is a positive one? Um, I've been noticing some of these young watchmakers who are like total watchmakers come out with things that I think, are going to, I don't know if they'll ever go beyond making onesies and twosies or not, but e Parmigiani, Michel Parmigiani, he did some incredible stuff, by the way. Parmigiani, F.P. Jorn, Kari Voutilainen, uh, all the sort of the group that sort of came on the scene in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. Whole group of just top watchmakers. Um, Jean-Marc Wiederreck, um, anyway, I can't remember them all, but they're all now, or most of them are part of the independents. And so one trend I like to see is there's sort of half a trend. The young guys are coming out with some really excellent, beautiful watches. Cyril Nadeau in France. That there's a couple guys, I forgot what their names are. I think they're German or German and Swiss, something like that, who are doing some, and when I say they're doing some good stuff, they're coming out with award-winning watches, and they're being inducted into the independent group. That's the good thing. The bad thing is they're charging a lot. They're charging like I don't think any of them started under 30,000. But so that's one trend that I'm hopeful for. Another trend I like to see more of, we're starting to see it, is people are finally getting honest about their movements. I think a lot of them finally realize that collectors aren't as dumb as we seem to be because of the way we spend our money. But I think they're beginning to realize is that, hey, if you imply your movement is in-house and it turns out to be part of a factory knocked out Salida, people are going to find out. And so maybe it's time to be honest. I don't know. Bolder colorways and designs. I agree with that. That's another trend that I like. Finally getting some colors. Like I got my red strap. I don't want. I like brown and black straps, but that's there's more to brown and black, and it goes with my cowboy shirt. Okay, let's see. Yeah, yeah. No, I do like colors. There's a way to do it and a way, I guess, not to do it. All kinds of all kinds of things. The muted colors that they have from the 1930s are really, I like those. It's sort of a washed out green and a brown, almost tan, and yellows and some sort of faded yellow. There's a lot of interesting watches on that end. Oh, look, guys, I guess I better take off. I, I've had we could talk about anything. Anyway, thank you all for putting up with me, and take care. And I hope you find the best watch ever for yourself.